Hey everyone, welcome back to Like a Boss, featured here on the Grit Daily News channel. I'm Loralyn Mears, your host of the show, and let's get right to it.
We have got a tremendous guest in the house this week. We've got Tiffany Xingyu Wang. She is an international phenomenon, recognized for everything that she's done, not only for her knowledge of organizational science, but the power of her alliance building capabilities. It's phenomenal. She's a founding member of Chief, which is a world networking organization designed for women. And if that's not enough, she is part of a fantastic and essential movement right now. It's called the OASIS Consortium, and it's all about bridging that gap to protect consumers so that they can interact safely with their brands. Hello, Tiffany.
Hi, Loralyn. How are you?
Oh, I'm fantastic. I'm so excited to have you here. As I said, you are well known on so many different stations and programs and things. And thank you so much for taking your time today to be part of Like a Boss.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Well, it's great. Grit Daily's got all kinds of listeners who are focused on things like data privacy and protecting themselves because we live in a world where, well, trolls can hide behind their anonymity. And so tell us about the importance and the impetus behind OASIS Consortium.
Yeah, so we have to say we are really in a chaotic time right now. So the internet is filled with, as you said, data breach, as well as the mis and disinformation and online toxicity, all this kind of disruptive behaviors from sexual harassment to racism and hate speech. And the fundamental problem behind it is that we actually have never defined what is good on the internet. And really from there to demand that the platforms comply with those standards. And that is all what the consortium is about. So the OASIS Consortium is building the actionable standards for brand and user safety. And I think I want to highlight the word actionable in the sense that what are doable today and what are the aspiring standards for the future to really engage the next generation of the platforms to build a safer and a kinder future for our internet.
All right. So with OASIS Consortium, then, really by leading through example and being able to represent so many different companies and organizations, you guys are becoming quite the powerhouse when it comes to advocacy.
So we really start with this advocacy for the industry to build the standards, as we just talked about, because the industry needs the benchmark to define what is good. And from there, you can encourage behaviors. And I think, of course, as you mentioned, I'm also the Chief Strategy Officer for Spectrum Labs in full disclosure. So I've been in the weeds working with all the platforms to understand what are the struggles they're dealing with every day when it comes to content moderation and online trust and safety. So that comes back to why actually OASIS Consortium is different from other standards building organizations to really focus on the subset of what I call the future generation of platforms. So those are not necessarily the publishers where the journalists are authors, right? Those are the platforms where the users are authors, and therefore you have less fact checks and you have potentially more online toxicity because of the anonymous identities nature on those platforms. But those are also the platforms where the line between social, gaming, dating, educational platforms becomes so blurry, and I call those platforms are the future of the internet, and we want to focus on their struggles and what they can do now and guide those platforms into the future where they can build our internet to be.
Oh, that's fantastic. And it's so necessary because you're right. The intersection that you folks are operating at Oasis really is between blurred lines. It's not as simple as a movie statement or TV where it's PG-13 or rated R restricted content, or even Netflix. You see the little disclaimers that contain smoking or drug use or nudity or whatnot. You folks are out there and creating this, not only the standards, but the awareness. How long has Oasis been around?
We started in summer last year. So we only started recently. And honestly, the feedback and the reaction and the movement and the community we're building are beyond what I could imagine. And I think it's very related to the fact that we have been in pandemic and really we've suffered from the chaotic year, and not mentioning the US election as well. So yeah, I would say it's a very timely and a topical thing and a movement to do.
And I'm so surprised that Oasis hasn't even had its first year anniversary, just
Oh
given
my
all of
God.
the tremendous footprint you guys have had. That's fantastic.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, it goes to show you how necessary it is. So now let's talk about that success that you've had and dare to dream, Tiffany. What is the wild and crazy vision of success you have for Oasis Consortium?
Yes, so actually the OASIS Consortium, the OASIS, stand for the five values: openness, accountability, security, innovation, and sustainability. And we really create standards along these five values and methods under. There's three pillars we talk all the time about. One is privacy by design, safety by design, and diversity, equity, and inclusion by design. So my wildest dream is that all the platforms one day, when they create a new feature, new product, and the new founders create new platforms, they can bake these principles, the privacy, safety, and the DEI by design at inception phase. And only when we do that, we can create the platforms and the internet which are safer and kinder. And if Oasis can contribute just a little bit to our awareness and the standards for the industry, I will call it a success for all the efforts we're putting.
Oh, absolutely. Now, if we look at your background, you've been a successful international investor, you've appeared on talk shows around the globe. But what is it that you wish someone told you about founding a startup or a consortium?
Community. Oh my God, a community. It's very, very later. Actually, only after I came to the US, I think this concept of community really, really came to me. And it's through meeting fantastic people in my life. So by that, what I mean is when you start a nonprofit or for-profit, the journey is lonely and you have ups and downs. It's only when you surround yourself by the people, not only who have the experiences and insights you need along the journey, but also the people who have the willingness to help you and lift you up, can you survive that? And you really need that when you start that up. So I think you mentioned Chief is a great community. I want to mention a couple names like Len Fan from Community of Seven, Catherine Von Jane from Salesforce, like great, women leaders have been a long journey with me. I think another thing is about, I would say, the community building for the business growing. I think one thing I've noticed and really, really pushed forward is how you use community to grow a company. Because when you start a company, you need a time for product market fit, understanding and growing, and only by fostering a community of experts and the users and the people who care about the same topic you care about, can you find the product market fit the fastest way possible, and they will become your adopters, the first adopters for your technology or for your mission or for your consortium. So community for both the personal reasons for being a founder, but also for the growth of an organization.
And I've personally had the opportunity to interact with Lan Fan. She's been a previous guest on our podcast, and she is another force to be reckoned with. So I can imagine the two of you, plus everybody else on your board. Wow, incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. She is phenomenal.
You guys all are. This is such an important piece of work. Let's get into kind of changing the subject a little bit. What's the hardest thing that you've ever had to do? And you can share something personal or professional, whatever you feel comfortable sharing, Tiffany.
Yeah, I think giving up my prior career was the hardest thing to do. So I grew up in China. I moved to Paris, France, and was quite formulated there after college and started my career there. and being an investor across sub-Saharan Africa for commodity projects, and moved to Singapore doing renewable projects. So my first part of my career was really an investor in emerging markets, and was really on great track. But at the point, I just realized the future when I was actually working on investment for the infrastructure for data center. I realized, hey, Google is using artificial intelligence to optimize and automate the energy efficiency usage, for the data center. Say, hey, I knew nothing about AI. And I decided, what, I'm going to give up everything. And I came to the US, started from scratch. It was hard, right? Like, give up what you already built, and just huffed it up there to say I can do it all over again was really hard. But one thing I want to say is one mentor told me when I was younger was that life is not necessarily a marathon. It is a triathlon. Whatever you've learned and built and even give up in the past will always come back to you, and it will give you the aptitude and the resilience you need for the next journey. And I feel it. And I have to say, to all the audiences, if you are in the same moment as I was, and do it if you think it's the right thing, because whatever I did in the past helps me tremendously to do the things I want to do today.
And it's not only from the past, but it's following your passion, right? I think that's the key to success behind so many founders. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. That just makes you a more rounded person.
Now, you've already shared one tip for the next generation of women, but can you share your best tip?
Ooh, actually, very interestingly, it's along the line you were saying, but I want to articulate a little bit more. It follow the passion, but follow the inner self. So I think for the next generation of women in technology and beyond, it's very, very easy for all of us to be sucked into and attract into what is the current hype. So every 3 to 5 years, we see a new hype in technology. And do not give up what makes you a happy person. Do not give up what makes you a more rounded person. And do not be trapped in what is current and what other people want you to do and to learn.
Oh, I love that. Too many people get caught up with trends, right? Even in fashion. Just be you.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. I'm going to give you some pixie dust, and we're going to go back in time for a moment. And it's not talking about how your past is serving you now, but I'm going to give you the opportunity to change one thing. What would you change?
I think nothing.
And the majority of the guests here on the Grit Daily Like a Boss podcast say they'd change nothing because it made them who they are today.
Love it. You choose your right guests.
Oh, you bet I do. That's why we've got you on here, right, Tiffany? All right. Big question. How can our audience help you?
Yes. So OASIS Consortium, as we said, we just started. So follow us on LinkedIn and Twitter and subscribe to our websites. We have a branded podcast called Brand Safety Exchange. I really want everybody to really raise awareness for brand and user safety topics. And the second phase, we are revamping version 2 of the standards. So if you're working at a major platform or an emerging platform or at a brand and care about this topic, please reach out. We are building a thought leader board for the people who care about topic and have things to say.
Incredible. We need folks like yourself and all of your colleagues behind OASIS, creating those safe environments and being that interface between us, the consumers, and the brands we follow. All right, last question, because things like data privacy, consumer protection, all that, those are small topics. This one's the really important question we're going to get into now. Now, if I peeked into your closet and we looked to try to find a pair of shoes that represented your personality, are we going to find a pair of boots, stilettos, sneakers, flats, or flip-flops?
Stilettos. Honestly, Loralyn, you probably will see 99% of my shoes are stilettos. and I probably passed from crawling directly to stilettos. and and I just love I love how I feel when I'm in stilettos. I think it is the elegance, class, and the power when I'm in stilettos.
Excellent. Well, with that, we want to say a big thank you to Tiffany Xingyu Wang, founder and general manager behind OASIS Consortium, just creating that safe space and being that interface between consumers and the brand. Thank you so much, Tiffany, and we wish you tremendous success at OASIS.
Thank you, Loralyn, and thank you, everyone.
Thanks for listening. And if you'd like to be a guest on our show, well, why don't you apply?
And how about that fantastic intro by Touch Circle?